Rama Rama Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim. Yat kripatamaham bande Shri Guru Dharanam yat kripatamaham bande Paramanandamadam Shri Chaitanishwaram. Katanchana smrite yasmin dushkaram sukaram bhavet smrite vritam syat Shri Chaitanyam namamitam. Okay, Padmanukta Nimai Prabhu, Rudradeep Nimai Prabhu. Could you kindly share the screen? I'm not in Mayapur, I'm in Bangalore. So the difference in the background. Any volunteers to read today? Can you hear me?
Yes. Shall I read, Prabhu?
Yes, you can.
The morning after the first Pandal lecture, Srila Prabhupada sat with the Kartikeya Mahadeviya, Tamala Krishna Goswami, and Bhavananda Goswami. Ever since Prabhupada's extreme weakness of health had occurred in Mayapur, he would often sit for hours alone and silent. When he spoke, his voice was often hoarse or faint, but otherwise his conversation was as it had always been, completely Krishna conscious. In fact, Srila Prabhupada was becoming increasingly strong in his uncompromising criticism of all mudhas who do not accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was condemning materialistic civilization, calling it a dog civilization or an ant-hill civilization. A dog runs on four legs and a human being runs on four wheels. But if he does not know the meaning of life, then he is no better than the dog. Both humans and ants build tall edifices, but if a man doesn't know of the soul and of Krishna, then despite his proud skyscrapers, his civilization is no more than a glorified anthill. If more visitors come, Prabhupada said, I shall describe all this anthill civilization. Health? Nonsense. What health? He'll be kicked out immediately. Srila Prabhupada was referring to the man's question from the Pandal. Who is healthy if he is going to die? Prabhupada asked, I am so healthy that I am going to die tomorrow. That is their health. Almost every one of those questions, said Tamala Krishna Goswami, was about the body. Prabhupada. Krishna says, Na hanyate hanyamani sharire. That is healthy. When you do not die, although the body is destroyed, that is healthy life. What is this healthy life? The body is finished and everything. Actually, everything is not finished, but people are kept in that ignorance. They think the body is finished and then everything is finished. But that is not the fact. Krishna very clearly said, Na jayate mriyate va kadachin. If you do not question, then how is it possible? But that is the most important question. Prabhupada mentioned that despite the United Nations World Health Organization, still everyone else was going to die. Where is health? He asked. Such foolish things are going on all over the world. So organize, introduce reality to them and spread it. Slow but sure. So we shouldn't be impatient and compromise, said Tamala Krishna Goswami, just to be popular. There is no question of becoming impatient, said Srila Prabhupada. You have got a diamond. If there is no buyer of the diamond, that doesn't mean you have to throw it away. You must know that here is a diamond. If I want it, I must pay the proper price that I want to establish. Why India's culture should be lost in this way? I am not a cheap patriot. I want to give Indian culture to the whole world. I am not going to cheat people, taking Bhagavad Gita and speaking all nonsense. I want to present Bhagavad Gita as it is. That is my mission. Why should I cheat you? We will try to follow your message properly, said Mr. Mahathir. Why should India's big culture be lost for the matter of these rascal leaders? Said Prabhupada. They should be stopped. Krishna consciousness is all inclusive, just like the economic question. Annat bhavati bhutani. Krishna says, grow food. It is practical. When I was traveling, I saw millions of clerks coming to get education. And who is growing the food? Then these clerks have to be provided in these pigeonholes and depend on ration. Is that civilization? Throngs of people are coming. They are coming like ants. And when you go to the village, it's all vacant. No one is interested to produce food. Everyone is interested to live in the city in these pigeonholes and go to the cinema, the brothel, go to the club, learn how to drink, how to become gentlemen. Is that civilization? The human aim of life is lost. You do not know why you are going to the office, why you are eating. They are keeping humanity in an animal mentality, a doggish mentality. University education is a doggish mentality. The dog wags his tail as soon as you give him some food. Oh, yes, said Mr. Mahadevia. For application for a job, there are 5 jobs and 5 dozen people apply. Is that education? Said Prabhupada. Better not to be educated. Those who are not educated, they can purchase 5 rupees worth of potatoes and sit down anywhere. After spending so much money, living at the cost of fathers and mothers, they have no job and no food. Then they plan some political party, Naxalite, or this or that party, and join a political movement and help Indira Gandhi. You are paid to make propaganda. But all that has vanished now, said Mr. Mahadevia. That plan has failed completely. Like many other Indians, Mr. Mahadevia was hopeful that with a new election, conditions would be improving. No, said Prabhupada. Another one will come. This unemployment is there. When I was a child, we were purchasing mustard oil for 3 annas, and now it is selling for 13 rupees per kilo. Will a change of government bring this 13 rupees to 3 annas? Then what is the benefit? Stool is stool, whether you take it from the top side or the bottom side. A few devotees entered the room and sat, while Prabhupada encouraged them all in preaching. He said that people could not get relief through government but through Krishna consciousness. Krishna and his devotees were for everyone, not for a particular nation or person. The people are in darkness, said Prabhupada, and the politicians are keeping them like dogs, hogs, and camels, taking a vote from them and becoming a leader. Nobody protested last night, however, that I called all men dogs, hogs, and camels. No, no one came forward and said, you are using very strong words because it is all a fact. They especially liked your idea, said Hridayananda Goswami, of American money and Indian culture. They applauded for that. Yes, that is my mission, said Prabhupada. I am doing that. I am bringing money from America. Nobody is paying me. It is not a joke. 10 lakhs of rupees. Who else brings? Even big export companies don't bring so much, said Gopalakrishna. And they will be glad, said Prabhupada. They have got money and they are getting like culture. I am trying for United Nations. That is the real attempt, not this United Nations. All the rogues and thieves and cheaters, barking dogs. I am trying for real United Nations. Let us cooperate together. Srila Prabhupada's disciples rallied to hear him speak like this, and they resolved to somehow counteract the forces of ignorance through Krishna consciousness. He said they should proceed slowly but surely, just as he had done. He had begun humbly, loitering on the streets of New York, And before that, he had been living alone in the Radha Damodara temple. But now there was the Bombay temple, a palace that would be crowded with thousands of guests to see the deity and attend cultural programs. Do it enthusiastically, said Srila Prabhupada. You are all young men. Our enthusiasm is coming from you, Srila Prabhupada, said Tamala Krishna. I am old man, said Prabhupada faintly. But the devotees didn't accept that. Srila Prabhupada was Navayavana, spiritually ever fresh. Each night, Srila Prabhupada had a different devotee read a verse and purport. Leading disciples like Hridayananda Goswami and Giriraja would lecture, and Prabhupada would speak afterward. He continued, stressing India's real message to the world and the misfortune that occurs when people, especially the Indians, neglect it. Based on his bold statements, some devotees had made a big sign and posted it the pandal, outside the pandal. The modern civilization is a failure. The only solution is Krishna consciousness. In his evening lectures, Srila Prabhupada advised his hearers against identifying with any political party. One day, someone is a prime minister, he said, and the next day that person is finished. Although Prabhupada had begun his lecture series by apologizing to the audience, saying he could not speak much because of his poor health, each night he very strongly argued that Krishna consciousness is the only solution. And during the question and answer period that followed his lecture, he was often explosive. When chanting, a man asked through the microphone at the front of the stage.
Mati, can I just
Yes,
stop for?
yes, Prabhu.
Okay. So we see one thing which is very clear in Prabhupada's approach. You know, although Srila Prabhupada taught us that if you have a row of zeros and if you put one before those row of zeros, then those row of zeros along with one has a lot of value. So Srila Prabhupada taught us to add Krishna to our activities. That's all. We also often preach like that, right? Just add Krishna and your life will be perfect. Vedic dialogue is always like this. It starts with a very simple truth, but then as you explore the truth, there are many facets to that truth. So yes, add Krishna. That is our basic uh, preaching line, or that's the basic aspect of our philosophy also, that we add Krishna to whatever we are doing. But when we add Krishna to whatever we are doing, that has a certain implication. So what you're doing also undergoes a certain kind of transformation. So Prabhupada is explaining here that modern civilization is a failure. In this, I mean, the disciples put up that banner, but basically that's a right banner, because Prabhupada is explaining that this whole concept of city life, this whole passion and ignorance, is meant for animals. This is not human life. That's why Prabhupada would say modern civilization is a polished edition of animal life. So you have a bunch of animals living in the cities. They may be dressed in a coat or a suit or whatever, but the entire population of a city are a bunch of animals, but two-legged animals. So because they're two-legged animals, they can take to Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada is saying, change from being an animal to a human being, and you shall practice Krishna consciousness. If you change from animal to a human being and practice Krishna consciousness, that's far more conducive for advancement. So the Prabhupada is saying that people should be self-sufficient wherever they are. This concept of city life is sophisticated animal life, and Prabhupada is extremely strong on this point. So it's not that when we take to Krishna consciousness, we forget about our lifestyle. It may not be possible for us to reverse it for some of us or many of us, but we should not have any illusions that this is fine. This is not fine. It is animal life. Of course, Krishna consciousness is so wonderful that even in that context, one can practice. But one should be careful when one applies the philosophy. One should think, I am unfortunate that I am not able to go back to human life. Okay, so even if I am in animal life, okay, so let me somehow or other practice Krishna consciousness. So that's fine. That as long as one has that understanding. But if one thinks that animal life, city life is the same as village life, everything is material, then there is a lack of clarity in our worldview. Because Prabhupada came to teach us that there is a stratification in this material world, which is that the mode of goodness is higher than the mode of passion, which is higher than the mode of ignorance. So the more one is situated on the platform of goodness, the more conducive it is to practice Krishna consciousness. And our endeavor should always be to be situated more in the mode of goodness. Of course, if one is not able to do, what can be done? But one should understand one's position and have no illusions about it. So the mode of goodness is not equal to the mode of passion, is not equal to the mode of ignorance. So life in a village setting or self-sufficiency or a farm setting is far superior to life in a city, which is far superior to life in the dark parts of the city, like Prabhupada said, liquor houses and brothels and things like that. Okay, I just wanted to make that point that Prabhupada, I mean, he's teaching this, he's presenting his teachings to the Bombay audience. Bombay was the most elite city of India at that time. And Prabhupada did not mince words, even when he was talking to the residents of an elite city. He said this is simply a polished version of animal life, and he thoroughly condemned it. So this is Srila Prabhupada. This is a sadhu. Sadhu has compassion. He permits people to live, encourages them. That's fine. But at the same time, he shows them what is reality so that they are not living in an illusion. Okay. So these are some thoughts which I wanted to share. If there are any comments or questions on that, whatever I spoke so far or whatever we read so far today. We didn't read much though. We just read for about 15 minutes. But nevertheless, there are very significant points which Srila Prabhupada makes. So I just wanted to stop here and say a few things. If there are any questions, comments, reflections, please do feel free to share them or ask them now.
Just a clarification. Yes. I presume the reference here is for the general mass of people and not necessarily for devotees, yes? Because devotees' consciousness, whether they're living in a village or a city, should be for the higher purpose. Does it also equate in the same manner to devote? So those that are practicing devotees, are the reference? Are we also animals? We are, of course. We're not. We're just novices. But is that reference the same application to all?
Devotees are transcendental, but the extent of transcendence depends on the level of consciousness also. I remember that some time ago, a devotee mentioned to me that I made a general remark in a WhatsApp group, to some residents of Mayapur, young people, married people who are living in Mayapur. I was part of a group. So I made a comment there on the group that while living in Mayapur, it is pointless to lead a cat and dog's life. One should wake up early, attend the Mangalarati, and attend the temple proning program. Now, as a result of that, several of those people started attending Mangalarati, and it went on for a long time. But what I did not realize was that there was one young couple who got very offended by that remark. I didn't know. So the remark was not specific to some individual. It was just a generic remark. So Prabhupada distinguishes human life from animal life. So animals have a certain kind of consciousness. So when we take to Krishna consciousness, we are supposed to change our consciousness. So we are not supposed to think that the city life is as good as village life. It is not. It is not. That is exactly what Prabhupada is trying to say here. If we think that this is advancement of civilization, if we think this is great, then we are an animal consciousness. Now, because we are two-legged animals, we're able to follow Krishna consciousness. That's a different thing. But the state of consciousness is what determines whether one is on the animal platform or human platform. So if we read Prabhupada's books, then we'll be under no illusion about our state of existence. So, but it is not, okay, like Prabhupada explained, what is the reason for his success? He says repeatedly, he said, when my Guru Maharaj gave me this instruction to preach Krishna consciousness in the Western world, I kept thinking, how shall I do it? How shall I do it? How shall I do it? And Prabhupada said, that was the secret of my success. I never forgot the words of my spiritual master. And I always kept thinking, how shall I do it? How shall I do it? How shall I do it? So, if one has that consciousness, how shall I be human? How shall I be human? How shall I be human and practice Krishna consciousness as the way Prabhupada wanted? Then Krishna will show us the way. Krishna means Krishna and Srila Prabhupada and his followers will show us the way. But just because one takes to Krishna consciousness does not automatically put one on the level of transcendence. Burijan Prabhu asked this question. Yes, it puts one on the transcendent level, but one may not be able to act on that level. So once Burijan Prabhu asked this question, the devotees are transcendental. And then he also said that, but we also say that devotees act in the mode of goodness. And Prabhupada replied by saying, devotees are transcendental who act in the mode of goodness. In the sense that mode of goodness means the mode of illumination. So we are also not ignorant like the modern city dwellers thinking that this is fine. We know that this is not fine. And we may not be able in our present situation to get out of that situation. But we have knowledge that this is not fine. A city life is hellish life, as Prabhupada would say sometimes. So as long as we are conscious, we are not in agreement, we are not promoting it, then such a devotee is properly situated. So the question is whether devotees are transcendental, yes. But just like I'm a man, there are women on this group, but can we act outside of our natures instantly when we come to Krishna consciousness? No. I mean, I'm married, and so I guess there are no brahmacharis in this group right now. So what marriage is material. So what is that? It is a material desire which can be purified in Krishna consciousness. So when we are Krishna consciousness, if we are going to be on the level of transcendence, then we don't need marriage, we don't need so many things. But we do need these things, which means that yes, Krishna accepts us on the level of transcendence, but we are practicing transcendence. We are not situated fully on the level of transcendence. So in the process of that practice, we should be conscious of our level and try to raise our level and finally become fully situated in transcendence.
Thank you, Prabhu. I think I posed my question slightly unclearly, but you've covered the point anyway. Well, my question was, it's a question of consciousness. I mean, if one is living in the city but has a higher purpose to life and their focus, i.e. Krishna in the middle, compared to living in the village with materialistic approach to life, then it's no better, I guess. Just by the virtue of being in a village and living a materialistic life, you're still living an animal life. It's just the location is different. It might be a little simpler. So that was my question, but you covered that.
That's correct. That's correct. See, that is like saying that if you live in a temple and meditate if you're not properly situated, then you're in Maya. There are congregational devotees who are doing much better than some temple devotees who may not be focused and who may be wasting their human formula, even though they're living in a temple. But that's generally an exception. So we are talking about the principle of what is favorable. Like as Prabhupada explains, the life in a farm involves less taxing the material energy, does not drain your material energy so much. So that energy can be used for Krishna consciousness. Let us try to use as much as our energy as possible for Krishna consciousness. Let's not dissipate that energy into materialistic endeavors which need to sustain us. And city life requires a lot of it. Again, Prabhupada did not ask people to just leave cities and go to the farms. He didn't say that. But he explained the principle very nicely so that those who have or who are conscious of it and who can do it can think in terms of how to minimize my material necessities. That the principle Prabhupada emphasized.
Thank you. We just an interesting comment. We had a little while back. We have a Vanaprastha Sangha group here, of which I'm part of now, by the way. So we're moving into Vanaprastha. And Jayadvaita Swami came to that, and he was promoting the fact that Vanaprastha is something that isn't really well practiced in ISKCON, isn't well understood, isn't documented. There isn't, all the other ashrams have more structure. Vanaprastha doesn't. And one of the questions, I think I might have asked it, is should we, as part of the simplification process, should we therefore be moving into Dham life and simplifying our life into effectively village life? And he said, no, not necessarily. I think he was saying actually quite the contrary. Vanaprastha does not mean say you give up all your activities and move out. Actually means you dedicate your life in preaching, because we are a preaching movement, and therefore, you stay where you are. Of course, if it's conducive for your spiritual progress to move into Dham, that's fine. Nothing against that. But actually, your focus should become more towards a preaching situation from where you are positioned, not necessarily. So that was quite interesting feedback from him. Sorry, that was it.
Yeah, you brought up a very interesting point. The very fact that one is able to start Vanaprastha life means one is finished with all material commitments. So then it is a question of, okay, one has settled one's material life, one has finished one's material commitment. That's when one is prepared to take up Vanaprastha life. So there it is a question of having the time to dedicate one's full energy to Krishna consciousness, or if not full, but more or less. So that, when one has the facility to engage one's energy fully in Krishna consciousness, then definitely wherever is a preaching opportunity, that is what counts. But we are talking about grihasthas who have commitments and who have all these different things. So if they practice their life in a village, it is far more conducive for them than to practice in a city, because city has so many demands which will bog them down. Now, again, I'm not saying about those who are born in cities, they may not have the ability to move to a farm or whatever. That's fine. Prabhupada recognize that people are real who have some real limitations. But the principle is that life in a village, it does not sap your energy like the way it does in a city. For Vanaprastha, there's no sapping energy because there's no commitments. These commitments and work is what saps the energy. If he's preaching, it doesn't matter whether he's preaching in the village or city, wherever there's preaching opportunity, he preaches. But for a grihastha, it is different. He needs to maintain his family. So there are commitments that he has to work, and that is far more conducive in a village than in a city. It does not mean that because it is conducive, therefore automatically you will make very good advancement. No, one has to still take advantage of that conduciveness. It's not an automatic thing. Like we say that chanting 16 rounds in the morning is the most conducive. That doesn't mean if somebody is not able to do it and they chant in the evening, they chant attentively, they'll making less progress. No. The most conducive is morning, like that. So there is something called most conducive. If one can take advantage of it, fine, but it's not depend, our progress is not dependent on that. But it may make things easier. Life may be easier if one can do that. That's all.
Thank you, Prabhu. I'm done.
Thank you. Any further thoughts, reflections, questions from anyone else? Okay, Indulekha Kripa Mataji, you can continue. Rudradeep Nimai Prabhu, could you kindly share the screen?
When chanting, a man asked through the microphone at the front of the stage, "You chant the name of Rama as well as Krishna, but I do not see any photograph of Rama here. What's the reason?" "You do not see? But can you hear?" Prabhupada asked. "I do not see," man insisted. Srila Prabhupada exploded. "But you do not hear?" And he went on to explain that hearing is the best way of understanding that which you cannot see. Another man asked how a religious minded person could move in the material world. Prabhupada replied, "Therefore, you have to understand your spiritual identification. But because you are fools and rascals, you are thinking, I am this body." He said that to realize this knowledge, one must be trained by a spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada was aware that most of the questioners had no serious intentions of following him. So sometimes he reprimanded them like an older brother for their foolishness. Even their asking philosophical questions with no intention of following was itself foolishness. But Srila Prabhupada continued to offer the diamond of Krishna consciousness even when the inquirer didn't possess the purchase price of sincerity. He offered it nonetheless and at great expense to his own physical condition. When a man rhetorically asked Prabhupada to kindly enlighten him about the soul, Srila Prabhupada replied, "That is already explained, that you are a soul within the body." Srila Prabhupada elaborated on how the senses are superior to dull matter, the mind is higher than the senses, intelligence is higher than the mind, and the soul is the highest of all. So it requires study, he said. It requires education. The education is there, the books are there, the teachers are there. Unfortunately, you are not interested to take this spiritual education. You are now interested in technology, how to hammer. That's all. Each evening, a prominent guest would appear at the pandal and introduce the program. One night, after Mr. J.M. Gandhi, a justice of the High Court of Bombay, spoke, Bhavananda Goswami read aloud the first two verses along with Srila Prabhupada's commentary from the teachings of Lord Rishabhadeva in the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada spoke briefly and agreed to take questions. If God is everywhere, a man asked, why his presence is not felt by everybody? Everybody is not intelligent, said Prabhupada. Mostly they are rascals. Manushanam Sahasreshu. This is the statement by God that out of millions of persons, one tries to become perfect. And out of many millions of perfect persons, one can understand God. So, God understanding is not so easy. But if we want to understand, God will help us. That is the point. The next man said he had several questions. My first question is, I don't think God is opposed to sex. Seriously, I have heard many a lecture, and it's always stressed as if the God is opposed to sex. But I don't think that's so. God is never opposed to sex, replied Srila Prabhupada. Who said? God said, Dharma viruddho kamosmi sex which is not against the regulative principles of religious life that I am. God never says stop sex. Otherwise, why is there Grahastha ashram? Ashrama means that there is Krishna consciousness. But make it ashram and follow the rules and regulations of ashrama. Then it is all right. Otherwise, you are bound up by the laws of nature. The same man then referred to Prabhupada's purport, which Bhavananda Goswami had read, in which Prabhupada had criticized the life of the hog-like man who lives only for sense gratification. One of your principal statements, the man said, was that a man goes on motor tram, stands there for 2 hours, reaches his place for business, and works there from 9 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the evening, returns back, had his food and sex and all that. I found many people who have worked very hard, raising children very nicely, have sex, but lead a good life. I don't think there is anything wrong with that. Yes, if there is no wrong, Prabhupada said, it is all right. But this sort of life is not very palatable. The man continued, because I find even the dog, Srila Prabhupada interrupted. But his reply was soft and humble. If you like that life, if you feel it is good, then that is up to you. But I don't think this is a very nice way of life to work so hard simply for bread. No, the man said, I agree there. Srila Prabhupada then raised his voice more strong. Then agreed. Then why disagree? That's all right, no more. The man had more questions, but Tamala Krishna called on someone else. Would you agree that God is just a concept? If you do not, please give a logical reason for that. Prabhupada, why shall I agree that God is only a concept? Because I want it logically. You do not know logic. You have to learn logic. But I still would like you to explain it logical. Yes, but you have to learn how to know it. There is master. Just like you cannot prove logically that without father there is a child. Srila Prabhupada explained that everything we see is growing out of the earth, and earth is described in the Vedas as the mother. But there cannot be a child without a father. Where there is mother and child, there must be father. God, therefore, is the father of everything. Srila Prabhupada's disciples were urging him not to exert himself. So, when Swarupa Dvamodara arrived, Srila Prabhupada asked him to give the evening lecture. Prabhupada was very impressed with Swarupa Damodara's scientific presentation of Krishna consciousness. One of the devotees remarked that Swarupa Damodara's talk seemed too technical for the audience. But another devotee replied that even if no one else had appreciated the speech, Srila Prabhupada had, and so it was a success. Following Swarupa Damodara's lecture, Srila Prabhupada spoke for about 5 minutes and left without taking any questions. The following night, Prabhupada did not speak at all, but he sat on stage while two of India's leading cardiologists, Dr. Keshav Rao Date and Dr. Sharma spoke. Srila Prabhupada had been garlanded by Mr. Date, and he sat patiently and silently on the Vyasasana, satisfied that prominent Bombayites were honoring the Krishna consciousness movement. Dr. Date spoke about heart disease and said it could be eliminated by controlling anxiety. He then praised Srila Prabhupada and his movement. After the doctor's brief talks, Swarupa Damodara gave another scientific lecture and showed slides. Srila Prabhupada later told Swarupa Damodara and others, this scientific program is giving me extra strength to preach Krishna consciousness. It seems like you are giving more stress to science in recent years than previously, said Tamala Krishna Goswami. That is required for convincing the modernized man, said Prabhupada. Perhaps I am the first man who protested against these unauthorized scientists. Oh yes, said Swarupa Damodara. Everybody is afraid of them except Srila Prabhupada. Frankly speaking, I never knew that the problem was this serious before I met Srila Prabhupada. I never thought about this. Therefore, I took it so seriously, said Prabhupada. Every morning walk, I would look for you and ask, where is the scientist? I thought, here I have got an opportunity to impress a scientist, and that will fructify. That was my aim. Therefore, I was bothering you in so many ways. It's your incredible mercy, Sri Prabhupada, said Swarupadananda. Because I cannot use the technical words, Prabhupada said, and he can do that. So I wanted that he should be trained up. Giriraraja arranged that one of the newly elected Janata Party members of parliament come and see Srila Prabhupada. The gentleman, Mr. Ratan Singh Rasda, was eager to meet the leader of the Hare Krishna movement. So while Mr. Rasda had been attending a political rally at Shivaji Park, Giriraja had come to arrange the meeting. When I went there, Giriraja told Prabhupada later, he asked me to sit with them on a dais. So I did. But was that wrong? Why not? Said Prabhupada, he is honoring you. Giriraja said that Mr. Rasda had asked to be the first speaker at the rally so that he could be free to come and meet with Srila Prabhupada before leaving the next day for a meeting with the central government in Delhi. Giriraja explained that Mr. Rasda was a member of parliament from Bombay South, which was the most prestigious district, and that he had formerly helped ISKCON in their case against the attempted demolition of the temple. Mr. Rasda entered the room and made a respectful gesture of obeisance to Srila Prabhupada. He said he had met Srila Prabhupada once, but since then he had been in jail for 19 months. Srila Prabhupada seemed surprised. Jail? He asked. Mr. Rasda explained that he had been jailed during Indira Gandhi's political emergency. More than 150,000 patriotic people had been imprisoned, he said, including J.K. Prakash and present Prime Minister Morarji Desai. When Giriraja told me that you were here, said Mr. Rasda, I told him definitely I'd like to ask for darshanam. This attempt at material adjustment, Prabhupada began speaking slowly, just like we felt a little danger under the regime of Indira Gandhi. Now we have another feeling. This is material adjustment. Material adjustment may be temporarily beneficial, but that is not permanently beneficial. Mr. Rasda replied, unless there is adhyatmika adjustment, there cannot be lasting benefit. Mr. Rasda was obviously acquainted with the Sanskrit Vedic knowledge, and he was also aware of the value of going to see a saintly person. Prabhupada persisted, however, in making the point that people do not really understand spiritual life. He described that the material body is made of different elements, and yet the living being is different than these elements. Unless we understand this fact, he said, which is very nicely explained in the Bhagavad Gita, these material adjustments will never make us happy. Mr. Rasda followed Prabhupada's point but asserted that a great change had taken place since the elections. The basic difference, he said, is that formerly there was no moral code observed by the rulers. He was entirely agreeable or wanted to be with Srila Prabhupada. Yet they were speaking on different levels. Both asserted that spirituality was needed in government. But Mr. Rasda's political conclusion was that such spiritual reform was now present in his political party. Srila Prabhupada, however, continued to speak of people who talk of God and don't even know the identity of the soul. He didn't specify whether this criticism applied to the former or to the present political party, although his remarks seemed to include both. Whoever was not in transcendental knowledge, whoever tried to work in the material field, without knowing the difference between spirit and matter, would come to the same inglorious end. No, said Mr. Rasta. The last rulers, most of them were communists. They said religion is opium. They didn't believe in religion at all. Therefore, Prabhupada said, they say something, we say something. He says something, you manufacture something. But nobody knows what is reality. That is the difficulty. Unless you know the reality, to suggest and say, I suggest it, does not mean that it is a solution. This is going on all over the world. Na te viduhu swartha gatim hi Vishnu. Please do not, people do not know that their highest interest is self-interest is Vishnu. Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.31. The external features, these material features, they are concerned with that. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence. But they do not know that beyond this, there is another element. Unless you come to that knowledge, there is no question of welfare activities. That knowledge is available in India. Srila Prabhupada accepted Mr. Rajda's visit as sincere and serious, and so he wanted to convince him to fully accept Krishna consciousness if he was really serious about introducing principles of dharma and morality into government. Real dharma had to start with an acceptance of self realization as the all important goal of life. It could not succeed just by rubber stamping the government as religious. Now we have got good government, Srila Prabhupada conceded. Very nice. Now you should take advantage of the privileges which are there in India. The Bhagavad Gita is there. If you take directions from Bhagavad Gita, then the whole human society will be benefited. That you do not know. That is the defect. Even big leaders, they profess to be students of Bhagavad Gita, but they do not know anything, although it is clearly stated. Who is the leader in India who does not know Bhagavad Gita? Everyone knows, even Morarji Desai, when he was when he was to be arrested by the leaders of the government, he said, wait, let me finish my reading of Bhagavad Gita. Is it not? Yes, replied Mr. Rajda. Srila Prabhupada, let me finish my Bhagavad Gita, then you can harass me. Mr. Rajda added that Mr. Desai was also studying the Bhagavad Gita very minutely while he was in jail. But now, said Prabhupada, he says that Janata is my God. Did he not say this recently? Mr. Rajda admitted that Morarji Desai had stated that, but that he had later clarified it. It is the government's responsibility to make people God conscious, Srila Prabhupada argued. It is a very simple thing. God personally is explaining how to become God conscious. It is a very simple thing. Manmana bhava madbhaktaha. Always think of Krishna and become his devotee. Bhagavad Gita 9.34. Even a child can do it. So why not leaders? Then their example should be followed. Why don't they do this? This God consciousness. Do it seriously. Then everything will be all right. They are defining the existence of God and reading Bhagavad Gita. This is their position. Srila Prabhupada explained to Mr. Rajda how he had been propagating the Krishna consciousness movement virtually alone. For years, he had worked in the West, and now he was bringing his movement to India. Cooperate with us, he said. You are so kind. You have come to see me. You have got desire. So let us take it seriously. Mr. Rajda seemed very moved and replied, yes, sir. Yes, sir, correct. It is serious, said Prabhupada. But nobody has taken it seriously. Bhagavad Gita is popular book. Everyone takes the Bhagavad Gita and says, I am a student of Bhagavad Gita. But if the leaders of a society really set the example, others will follow. That's correct, said Mr. Rajda. A serious effort should be made. Only lip service will not help. That is correct. Mr. Rajda reminded Prabhupada how he had supported the Juhu temple at the time of the attempted demolition. So you have given a great service, said Prabhupada. Now it is not only not demolished, but it is standing there. It is standing, affirmed Mr. Rajda, and a very nice temple. Mr. Rajda mentioned the possibility of a meeting between Srila Prabhupada and Morarji Desai. He said it could be arranged if it was convenient for Prabhupada. My life is dedicated for this purpose, said Prabhupada. It is convenient for me at any time. I am not keeping good health at the moment. Yet still I have come. I am just trying, even up to the last moment of my life. If I can deliver some good to these people, that is my determination. What is this life? Life will end today or tomorrow or day after. But if you live just to the point, that is the idea. Otherwise, trees are also living thousands of years. What is the benefit? Mr. Rajda confirmed that the meeting could definitely be arranged. He would see the Prime Minister and fix up a time. So, said Srila Prabhupada, there is some Krishna's purpose that you were elected. It is through his blessings, said Mr. Rajda. Take advantage of his blessings, said Srila Prabhupada. Do some service. On the last scheduled evening of the Pandal, the Chief Minister of Maharashtra gave the introductory speech. Srila Prabhupada, however, did not attend. When the devotees asked to extend the Pandal another week, Prabhupada agreed, but said he would move to his now ready quarters at Hare Krishna land. Before leaving, Srila Prabhupada spoke with Mr. and Mrs. Mahadeviya. Prabhupada had one of the devotees purchase a nice sari and he presented it to Mrs. Mahadeviya. I stayed with you and this is just my remembrance of thanks, so don't refuse. He gave a tape recorder to Mr. Mahadeviya, a sari to the Mahadeviya's daughter Preeti, and money to their servants. Mrs. Mahadeviya was very pleased, but she protested, saying it was a traditional duty and a pleasure for them to receive Prabhupada in their home. Previously, Srila Prabhupada had been playing the tape recorder in Mr. Mahadeviya's presence, and Mr. Mahadeviya had admired the sound reproduction. Now, when Srila Prabhupada gave him the tape recorder, he protested, "No, Prabhupada, I was not telling you that you should give me the tape recorder. I was just telling you that it's a good piece." No, Prabhupada insisted. "This is for you. You must keep it." As Srila Prabhupada entered his beautiful quarters at Hare Krishna land, he remarked that no one could outdo Surabhi Swami. I think I haven't.
Mati, can you just pause? Can you just pause?
Yes, please.
Okay. One thing that as we read this section of how Prabhupada deals with Mr. Rajda, this is Prabhupada, the consistent Prabhupada, that he would accept nothing short of full Krishna consciousness. Whether it is devotees, whether it is leaders, whether whoever it may be, Prabhupada was not happy with, okay, you're promoting Bhagavad Gita. But for him, it is not a question of just giving out Bhagavad Gitas, passing out some external social thing going on. But Prabhupada wanted leaders to be actually Krishna conscious, make the government Krishna conscious, make the citizens Krishna conscious, in the same way that we devotees practice Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada is not interested in simply, he conveyed this message to whomever he met throughout his life. The full message. He was not like, okay, this man is doing some good, so let's keep quiet. Otherwise, our good will get affected. Whatever good he is doing will get affected. No. Prabhupada never, ever thought like this, that, okay, if we speak the full truth to this person, then the good that he's doing will get affected. Never. Prabhupada, in the Bhagavad Gita, he says that not to preach is an act of violence. So when Prabhupada dealt with leaders, anyone for that matter, he wanted to present to them full Krishna consciousness so that they accept it for their benefit and for the benefit of those whom they're dealing with. For example, here Mr. Rasda, Prabhupada is not willing to accept that somebody who's reading Bhagavad Gita is good. Look at how he talks about Morarji Desai. They said, okay, later he's saying Janta is God. So Prabhupada is not willing to settle for anything less than the whole thing. And whether it is leaders, common men, Prabhupada wanted to present the whole thing so that they take it up, and also to those who they are dealing with, the citizens. And he wanted the whole thing. He wanted the whole thing. He did not have the strategy of this person is doing good for us, so therefore we should keep quiet. No. He presented the whole Krishna consciousness. He wanted to genuinely benefit whomever he's dealing with. So this is something which we really need to learn from Prabhupada, that we should not hesitate to present the full Krishna consciousness. Of course, I mean, we should present it compassionately. Like Prabhupada is presenting out of compassion, not out of the sense of, I know better than you. No. Prabhupada is genuinely considerate. Prabhupada is genuinely compassionate that this person needs to take Krishna consciousness to save his life and to save the life of people whom he's dealing with. So this is something which, this is the real Prabhupada. I mean, you can't see any other version of Prabhupada anywhere else. If you throw out his pastimes, he consistently demonstrated this. To anybody he dealt with, he presented full Krishna consciousness. Full Krishna consciousness. No strategy of, okay, I will do this, otherwise he'll get offended, or we need to do this. And there is no stage-wise strategies and plans, nothing. Just present the whole truth and nothing but the whole truth. That's it. So, and that is the outstanding contribution of Srila Prabhupada, that he dissipated all vagueness about absolute truth. He dissipated all ambiguities about the absolute truth. He dissipated every single misconception about the absolute, and he presented Krishna consciousness as like the bright sunshine. So it is our duty as members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, as followers of Srila Prabhupada, to also present Krishna consciousness like as bright as the sunshine. So this is what, I mean, these are the thoughts that I had when we were reading. A very fascinating section. And the end of it, you can see how when Prabhupada is leaving Mr. Mahadevi's house, how generous he is, how gracious he is. Prabhupada is a perfect gentleman. These are Vedic etiquettes. Now you could think, say, okay, what the servants are going to do with the money, right? You know what they're going to do with money. Prabhupada didn't get into that level of detail. Like sometimes we, in the name of philosophy or in the name of rationality, we try to get into. Prabhupada just followed the custom. Custom means this is a Vedic culture. You go stay in somebody's house, you give gifts to the host, and then you also give some gifts to the servants. So Vedic culture, Vedic philosophy has to be understood to the person who's presenting the Vedic philosophy. So he teaches us, this is how you behave. So we can't just apply some blind rationality and say, okay, this person is going to, like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in the Holy Dham, when his grihasthas were not willing to even give money to the beggars outside the temple, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur criticized it. So we have to have some courtesies. I mean, that not there's some element of culture that's there in Vedic life, which again is demonstrated to us by Srila Prabhupada. Okay, so these are some thoughts. Probably what I spoke may generate, as our professor used to say, I've thrown some light, it may generate some heat. So let's see if there are any questions, comments, reflections.
Prabhuji, I don't know what the question I'm like related to exactly to this one, but I think there is some relation, Prabhuji. So there was like the Prana Pratishtha of Lord Rama in Ayodhya last week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like because it has been like promoted by the political party, whatever it is, and they gave so much hype or something. I don't know what was their intention or what was their real motive for that one. But is it not right, Prabhuji, just for my understanding, that what they have done is right in the true sense, Prabhuji, like it is the duty of the government to promote those things and all, like building of a temple or promoting the culture or like that, Prabhuji?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is no ambiguity or there is no this thing about the fact that whatever is conducive for Krishna consciousness, we accept, right? That's our principle. So definitely. But Prabhupada would not be just happy with, okay, Ram temple being, what are you going to do with the Ram temple? Are you going to teach how to live the way Lord Ram taught us to live?
Mm.
Are you going to change your life? Are you going to change the life of people who are going to come to this temple? That is the thing which Prabhupada is really insistent upon. So yes, I mean, undoubtedly, it's a great thing that in the birthplace of Lord Ramachandra, we have a fabulous temple. There will be hundreds and millions of people who would come there. So, but what is the point? The point is that they get purified by coming to the holy place, and they start practicing a life centered around Lord Ram, and also give that to others. This is just a very preliminary step. I mean, it's an essential preliminary step that's there, but it's an essential step. But it is the first step. That's all.
Yeah. But people are making it like a political, because they're saying that they're doing it for political gains or like many this.
My point is, this is not some island in of Andaman Nicobar Islands where they've installed a Ram temple. No, this is Ayodhya Dham. These are not a mundane place in the material world. It's Ayodhya Dham. So it's a spiritual world. I mean, it's not like an ordinary place. And there they built a temple to glorify Lord Rama. Perfectly fine.
Yes.
I see what they're doing. See, we don't have to get into, I don't want to put it, we don't have to take the role of Paramatma and judging what should be done, what should not be done. We should see what is favorable. This is Ayodhya Dham. This is the, what do you call it? This is the place where Lord Rama can be glorified. Fantastic. Favorable for advancement of people's spiritual life. That's it. We can take that part of it, no matter what else it may be done for. It doesn't matter to us, right?
Yes. Yes.
Good is good. So it's good. That is between them and Krishna and Lord Rama. Okay. As far as we are concerned, we can, it's a favorable situation. Whether they use it for political ends, whether it's used, whatever, that's between Lord Rama and them. But between us and Lord Rama, we should use that opportunity they facilitated the opportunity where those who are practicing Krishna consciousness can utilize that facility to preach. Like we went there, we did, they invited us to do book distribution, did prasadam distribution, and that's going to continue also in the future in different ways.
Yes, I agree with you fully here. I mean, no matter what their motive may or may not be, actually the underlying act has been quite instrumental in, if nothing else, at least raising people's awareness of Lord Ram, his birthplace, and chanting his names during the mundane day, this week at least. Let's hope it lasts a little longer than the week. But certainly this week has been buzzing with Lord Ram's bhajan all over the place in terms of the internet and everything. It can't be a bad thing. But I have a question. Given Prabhupada's mood and ferocity and eagerness to wrap Krishna consciousness in its full potency in anything he does and says, in our today's movement, we have quite large swathes of so-called bridge preaching and very much diluted, sort of brahmacharis and sannyasis, perhaps in promoting generally more of goodness with not an utterance of Krishna's name within that. And I personally believe that's not in the spirit of Prabhupada's movement, but what are your views and thoughts on that?
I fully agree with your view. Like, for example, if someone were to ask me, I always directly say, I don't take, I mean, in a split second, I tell them, I don't agree with it. That's it. But the thing is that, how do you say? Prabhupada would deal with them. That's my take on it. Okay, sometimes they'll say, look, these people, due to their preaching, some people have chanted 16 rounds, chanting 16 rounds. Okay, but is chanting 16 rounds enough? Prabhupada said you should chant 16 rounds offenselessly. So to chant 16 rounds offenselessly, then you would accept Prabhupada's books as they are and accept him also as he is. You know, would they be willing to do it? Or are they going to partially accept his books and partially accept him? You know, so the numbers don't really matter there. As Prabhupada really says that in the preface to the Bhagavad Gita, this is, even if one person becomes a pure devotee, I would consider this movement to be successful. I would consider this movement to be successful. So the result has to be judged by whether a person has taken to full Krishna consciousness, pure devotional service, and is going back to God and getting others to also go. So that is the real test. And that's not easy. That's not easy. To accept all of Prabhupada's teachings and accept all of Prabhupada's personality, I mean, the pure devotee as he is, and the books that he has presented as he is, as it is, you know, that is not a simple thing. Sometimes there is this thing about, okay, look how much we have become appealed. We have appealed to the masses. We have done this. We have done that. All kinds of things. But there are a lot of people who have influence in this material world outside of ISKCON. I mean, people who are I mean, in Coimbatore, there is a personality who's very famous, world famous. Then there are others in Delhi. The one lady has built a very famous hospital, big hospital, and she has got so many other. And then there are people who teach different arts, how to live and things like that. I mean, there are different people who are quite popular and who have got, I mean, millions of followers. So for us, how does it even matter? The real thing is that whether people have accepted, okay, it's simple. If you meet a person, do you accept everything that Prabhupada has said in his books as absolute truth? You know, absolute truth. If they say that, fine, fantastic. Do you accept that Prabhupada was an associate of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and he has no defects, no mistakes in the life that he led in Krishna consciousness? If we can get people to just say yes, no buts, no ifs, no buts. If they can just say yes to these two questions, that's a very big success. Yes, without any further ifs and buts and all those kind of things. I mean, I keep it simple like that. And believe me, it's not easy to find that.
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, because I quite strongly campaign against just this very diluted form of preaching, where if you're not bringing them to Krishna and helping them advance in their Krishna, okay, it's good to bring people's consciousness to mode of goodness, but if the next step is missing, then you've achieved very little. I mean, you know what I'm saying. I mean,
you waste a lot of your time and energy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So that's I see more and more of this so-called bridge preaching happening now, but we're not actually taking the next step of moving them further into Krishna consciousness, into serious Krishna consciousness, beyond the goodness. So.
Correct. Where is a bridge? They're getting stuck on the bridge, or they're at the beginning of the bridge. But Prabhupada had a different idea of the bridge. Prabhupada also has done some very creative things. For example, in Vrindavan, when these yoga people would visit Agra and all that, Prabhupada said, okay, you can bring them to Vrindavan, teach them yoga. What is that? He said, provide them that. Of course, nowadays you don't get deer skin, I guess. Prabhupada said, provide them deer skin and all that. Make them sit straight on that, back erect, and ask them to concentrate on the tip of the nose. So when they're concentrating on the tip of the nose, it says read the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So that is concentrate on the tip of the nose and hear the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. You know, with his purports, of course. And then, of course, there is Gopal Krishna Maharaj speaks over making them chant, whatever. So this is Prabhupada's idea of a bridge. They're using some technique to present full Krishna consciousness. You are not using a technique to present Krishna consciousness in installments. No, Prabhupada never, you don't find any strategy that Prabhupada approved of which presents Krishna consciousness in installments with zero Krishna consciousness in the beginning. Nothing like that. Here, right from the beginning, make them sit and all that. And the first thing that you do is start reading the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So that I think is the right way to do it. One can use any method, one can use any, very innovative, creative ways, but give them the full thing. Give them the full thing. Whatever can draw them in, give them the full thing. Because sometimes we could also go to the other extreme saying that Prabhupada didn't do this, so we shouldn't do it. No, as long as one can do a lot of creative things, but provided one is presenting full Krishna consciousness. That is the real, underlying factor.
Thank you, Prabhu.
What else? Any further thoughts, reflections, questions? Indilekha Kripamati, you can continue.
Yes. As Srila Prabhupada entered his beautiful quarters at Hare Krishna land, he remarked that no one could outdo Surabhi Swami. I think I haven't such a place to live anywhere in the world, he said. Los Angeles and New York are big, big cities, and London, Paris, but nobody can present such luxurious royal palace. Seeing how the one large room was arranged to facilitate his different activities, Srila Prabhupada said, "This is like my room at the Radha Damodar temple. In one corner, I am writing, in another corner, I am sitting, and in another corner, I am taking prasadam." The comparison was odd, since the Radha Damodar place was a tiny cell, yet Srila Prabhupada saw them as related, the beginning in Vrindavana and the apex in Bombay. In either place, he was the same person, humbly taking a little prasadam, writing his books, and ambitiously planning for spreading Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada discussed with several of his disciples and Dr. Sharma about his daily routine in Bombay. He said he would come down for darshana of the deity and would lecture once a week on Sunday. On special occasions, he would see a visitor in his quarters, but rarely. Generally, he said, people come to visit and say, "How are you? How are you feeling?" and takes a half an hour even. So, what is the use of wasting the time like that? How are you? Everyone knows that I am not feeling well. So they can come to the temple room in the morning, said Tamalakshmi Goswami. Yes, said Prabhupada. If they actually want to see me, I am going there. They can see me for half a hour, a half hour. And for talking, there is no need of talking. How are you? How are you feeling? This is not talking. Instead, said Gargamuni Swami, they can buy some of your books downstairs. Yes, said Prabhupada, nodding approvingly. This is a waste of time. I want to stop this. To answer all these things, how are you? By saving this time and energy, he said, he could work on his book writing. Devotees assured him that everyone would appreciate this schedule and would be happy that he was working on the 10th canto. I think I shall be able to work from today, Prabhupada declared. Now I have got very nice place full of freedom, so there will be no difficulty. That Prabhupada would not take any morning walks went without saying. Everyone closely involved with Srila Prabhupada had come to accept a new way of living with no morning walks and very few classes. Someone suggested that Prabhupada might like to walk on the roof, but even that seemed to be too difficult. No one no, one story I can go, said Srila Prabhupada. Not now, but I can go. So you are trying so much for my comfort. I do not know whether I shall be able to repay you, but I shall try my best. It is not possible to repay your debt. You are so kind. So I can simply pray to Krishna to give his blessings to you so that you may remain very steady in devotional service and preach his message all over the world. Otherwise, I have no other means. Without your help, I could not do anything. So you are very kind. Kindly continue your cooperation. This is the moment for para upakara, doing good for others. I have got report from our other temples all over the world. They are doing very nice. Is it not? Other temples outside India. They are doing very nice. Swarupa Damodara, who had recently come from the West, told about the successful standard of devotional service in the temples there. Prabhupada said he wanted silence so he could do his work, and he told a little story about a woman whose tinkling bracelets disturbed her husband. The husband took one bangle away, but still he was disturbed by the ting ting ting. He took away another bangle and another until there was only one left. Then there was no more. Ting, ting, ting. Prabhupada specifically asked his secretaries not to gather and talk in the outer room. Remain always one, said Srila Prabhupada, and read books. Then there will be no noise. And as soon as you become two, ting, ting, ting. That I don't want. It won't happen, said the Malakrishna. If anyone comes to see me, I will go out of the apartment. Yes, said Srila Prabhupada. In this way arranged, it should remain always quiet and serene. These are your quarters, said the Malakrishna. No one else should come, and we shall arrange for seeing our own men at a time, said Srila Prabhupada. But the principle should be silence. That will be all right. I will be free to work. Prabhupada continued to appreciate his new situation. The rooms were well ventilated with plenty of sunlight. Other ISKCON buildings, like the Bhaktivedanta Manor in London, were very good, he said, but in most seasons he couldn't open the doors or windows because of the cold. You have to remain packed up, he said. In Detroit and London, you cannot open a window. But here in Bombay, the temperature was ideal and the area outside Prabhupada's window was verdant. Days went by, and most devotees in Bombay never got to see Prabhupada. They were all used to having him come down in the morning and walking with them for an hour on Juhu Beach. And they were used to having him come to greet the deities, give classes, and give darshana in the afternoon. He had always been open, especially in India, allowing anyone to see him at almost any time. He had always received them warmly and listened to their problems or questions with great sympathy. So, for them not to be able to see him, even while he was living in their midst, was traumatic. Only two or three secretaries stayed with him, and whenever other devotees came into his rooms to see him, they would feel that they were taxing him and would leave at the first opportunity. Unexpectedly, one morning, Srila Prabhupada appeared in the temple room, and the few devotees removed Prabhupada's picture from the Vyasasana so he could sit down. He hadn't given any warning that he was coming, and many of the devotees were absent. But the word spread that Prabhupada was there, and the devotees came running. After the Guru Puja Arati, Srila Prabhupada spoke to the assembly of devotees. He said he was sorry that he couldn't come down more often and that he wanted to cook for all the devotees and serve them. On Sunday, he said he would cook a feast and invite all the devotees up to his quarters. I shall come daily to the temple, he said, and I shall remain up to 8 for our darshana and talks. If there is any comment, generally every day it will be done. And on Sunday, you can fix up some time. I will speak in the evening and then Krishna's desire as he likes. But for the time being, this arrangement. Prabhupada's humility and his exactly reading the minds of the devotees made them feel ecstatic love for him. Some of them had even been thinking that Prabhupada had forgotten them and that other things had become more important for him. But now he was reassuring them. Although he appeared to be incapacitated, he was fully reciprocating with his disciples. He was telling them that as they were controlled by him, so he was also controlled by their loving service. Srila Prabhupada then explained the significance of Guru Puja, analyzing some of the words in the song the devotees sang each morning during the ceremony. So the necessity is prema bhakti, he said. Prema bhakti jahan hoite avidya vinasha jate. Divya Gyan. So what is that Divya Gyan? Prabhupada explained that it was the duty of the Guru to awaken Divya Gyan or superior knowledge of the self. Because the Guru reveals Divya Gyan, he is worshipped. For the non-devotees, Divya Gyan is never manifest, and one thinks of himself in terms of his body as American, Hindu, or Muslim. So we worship the Guru, said Prabhupada, because he gives us superior knowledge, not this knowledge of how to eat, how to sleep, how to have sex, life, and defend. Generally, the political leaders, the social leaders, they give this knowledge how to eat, how to sleep, how to have sex, how to defend. The Guru has no business with these things. He has Divya Gyan, superior knowledge that is required. This human form of life is an opportunity to awaken that Divya Jnana Hridaya Prakashito. And if he is kept in darkness about that Divya Jnana, then life will be lost. Remember this. It is very risky life to be once again thrown into the waves of birth and death. We do not know where will we go. It is very serious. Krishna consciousness is Divya Jnana. It is not ordinary knowledge. So you should always remember these words. Divya Jnana Hridaya Prakashito. And because the spiritual master enlightens with Divya Jnana, one feels obliged to him. Yasya prasada bhagavat prasado, yasya prasada na gati kutopi. By the mercy of spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Shri Guru Ashtaka by Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura. So this Guru Puja is essential, just as the deity worship is essential. It's not cheap adoration. It is the process of enlightenment of Divya Jnana. Thank you very much. Not only was Prabhupada reminding his disciples that he hadn't forgotten them, but he was also reminding them that they should not be absent from the Guru Puja and worshipful thoughts of the spiritual master, even if he was not able to personally come before them. Srila Prabhupada mostly stayed alone in his room, and during the day he would move from one desk to another, either to dictate the Bhagavatam or take prasadam or to speak to guests. He was especially prolific at his writing. Rising at 1 or 2 in the morning, he would dictate 90, 100, and occasionally almost 200 digits on his dictating machine. This was more than he had done in months. But he had little appetite. He could not eat anything heavy, and sometimes he had no appetite even for a cup of milk. Palika Dasi, and sometimes Kshirachora Gopinatha, a Bengali devotee, were the cooks. Srila Prabhupada liked Kshirachora Gopinatha's shukta made from the neem leaves, eggplant, bitter melon, potato, sweet potato, and yogurt. One morning, Srila Prabhupada asked for orange juice, but there were no oranges in the kitchen. Gopinatha ran to get them, but when he returned, Srila Prabhupada was ringing his bell. Gopinatha rushed in and told him, "I'm just coming. It takes time to make the juice." After a few minutes, When the Jews did not come, Srila Prabhupada began repeatedly ringing his bell. As Gopinatha at last entered with the Jews, Prabhupada spoke out angrily, I am sick with no appetite, and when I have a little hunger, then you take ours. He said he didn't want the juice, but Gopinatha put it on the table anyway. Srila Prabhupada picked the glass up and drank. You are serving me so nicely, he said quietly. I am always chastising you. When one gets old, he becomes short-tempered. Gopinatha had not felt bad about the reprimand, but on these humble words from Srila Prabhupada, he felt terrible. Gopinatha became so emotional that he could hardly speak. Yet he managed in a choked voice to say, Please, Srila Prabhupada, don't speak like that. I make mistakes, and if you don't correct them, then who will? There were many little personal exchanges like this between Srila Prabhupada and his assistants, but sometimes he would be more silent and inward than they had ever seen him before. He would spend time chanting and reading, and only on special occasions would he see a guest. Srila Prabhupada agreed to an interview with Mr. Koshi, assistant editor of the current magazine. Mr. Koshi's approach was not reverent but provocative. In search of a lively interview, Prabhupada was interested in speaking to many people through a magazine article, but he had no interest in flattering the editor or in compromising. Especially of late, as at the Bombay Pandal, Prabhupada was speaking in foremost plain, direct words. Whoever approached him, he informed about Krishna, and their illusion is not accepting Krishna. Mr. Koshi asked Prabhupada why he had been recognized first in countries other than India. Because the Indians are so poor that they cannot purchase diamond, said Srila Prabhupada. But diamond must be there. They are so poor-hearted, their education has been so poorly given that they cannot understand. Poorly given? Asked Mr. Koshi. Yes, replied Prabhupada, they are teaching. You are this body, jump like cats and dogs. That's all. That is nationalism? It is. You are this body, jump like cats and dogs. A group as a group of crows gather together, caw, 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 that has been taught. Make a group and crow. But you don't find this word nationalism in the Bhagavad Gita. These are all borrowed words. So what is your alternative? Asked Mr. Koshi. We are preaching internationalism, said Prabhupada. Everyone welcome. Come to Krishna consciousness. Here is Christian, Hindu, here is African, Mohammedan, everything. That is real United Nations. If they were thinking that I am American, then why are they after a poor Indian man? Indians are known outside India as poverty stricken, and that's a fact. But actually, we are not poverty stricken. If we cultivate our own standard of knowledge, Bhagavad Gita, then we are the richest. We can give the whole world these gifts. Prabhupada said it was regrettable that scholars and politicians pretend to be students of Bhagavad Gita without even knowing the difference between the body and the owner of the body. They do not even know the first lessons of Bhagavad Gita. So what is the solution? Asked Mr. Koshi. Solution? Prabhupada shouted. You learn it. But they don't want to do it, said Mr. Koshi. Then they will go to hell, said Prabhupada. What can be done? If you want to cut your own throat, you can do it. Who can save you? But our duty is to say, don't commit suicide. Mr. Koshi made a case for drinking tea and coffee. He could not see how such things were sinful. Prabhupada explained that they were intoxicants. But there are several millions like me, said Mr. Koshi. Billions of zeros does not mean one, said Mr. Prabhupada. Said Srila Prabhupada. Zero is zero. If there are 7 million zeros added together, you cannot make one. Mr. Koshi also wanted to ask why Prabhupada paid so much attention only to Krishna, since there were hundreds of gods in the pantheon, but Prabhupada stopped him short. Mrs. Koshi, asked about the brainwashing controversy. There are so many accusations, said Prabhupada, but now it is in the court. But you don't require recognition of any court, do you? Asked Mr. Koshi. You require, replied Prabhupada, laughing. I don't require, you require. Yes, until then, said Mr. Koshi, there is doubt. Because you are after the court, said Prabhupada, after the judges. We are not after anyone. We are after one, Krishna. That's all. We know what our duty is. Srila Prabhupada further explained that opposition was coming in America because so many young people were taking to Krishna consciousness. Young men are taking it, said Prabhupada. They are preaching. They have sacrificed their lives. So they are intelligent persons. They can understand they should not die. Krishna consciousness is not an old man's recreation. No, said Mr. Koshi, but you are responsible for it. I am not, said Prabhupada. Krishna is responsible. I am just distributing. My duty is to distribute. That's all. Mr. Koshi asked Prabhupada if he was happy with the way this movement has spread. And Prabhupada replied, why shall I not be happy? I am not manufacturing anything. That is not my business. Jumping from one topic to another in search of readable magazine copy, Mr. Koshi asked Prabhupada, how is your health now? Not good, Prabhupada replied. Health or no health, it is the outward machine. That doesn't matter. But if it is a good machine, then it helps. That's all. Otherwise, machine good or bad, it doesn't matter. What happens when the machine stops? If your machine has stopped, Prabhupada said, you take another machine. That's all. Why shall I be overwhelmed? Oh, machine is going, machine is going. Therefore, Krishna says, you are lamenting for the machine. You nonsense. That is not the Pandita's business. Mr. Koshi, what is your typical day like? What time do you get up? How do you spend your day? How can I say, replied Prabhupada, I have got so many things. Tamala Krishna, sensing that the interview had gone about as far as it could profitably go, spoke up. Srila Prabhupada, he said, I want to suggest that if he has some further questions, we could try to answer them. And then, if there are still unanswered ones, no, said Srila Prabhupada. He has no answer on this spiritual matter. He will ask me some political questions. We have no function in politics. Mrs. Koshi disregarded the signal from Prabhupada's secretary and went on with his questions. You see, he said, when I see a group of young people like these boys here dancing in the street, it is something jarring my eyes. What is the necessity for the chant? One man's food is another man's poison, Prabhupada replied laconically. No, no, said Mr. Koshi, there must be a purpose behind it. Yes, said Prabhupada, that is the way to spiritual understanding in this age. Mr. Koshi asked about illicit sex, and Prabhupada replied that sex should be used only within marriage for begetting children. Don't you think that the children should be given freedom to choose voluntarily? Do you want to give freedom to your children? Asked Prabhupada. I am asking you, said Mr. Koshi. No, no, said Prabhupada. What is the use of giving freedom to a child with a razor? He will cut his throat, that's all. But at a later age, perhaps. Later age? Yes, said Prabhupada. That is enjoined. When a child is 16 years old, he can do as he likes, not before that. Now Mr. Koshi was ready to wrap it up. What is your message to the world? He asked Prabhupada. Prabhupada and the devotees laughed. Again you ask me? Said Prabhupada. After reading Ramayana, you are asking me whose father is Sita. I have explained already. Before Mr. Koshi left the room, Prabhupada requested, write nice article. Don't worry about that, Mr. Koshi replied. It's my job. Srila Prabhupada made sure Mr. Koshi took prasadam before leaving. Should I continue, Prabhu? Disciples?
Yeah, you can continue a little bit more. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhu. Disciples continued to come to Bombay in hopes of getting direct instructions from Srila Prabhupada. Much could be done through his secretary, avoiding how are you feeling conversations. Yet sometimes Prabhupada did meet directly with certain disciples. He was still involved at least through his secretary, in most of the important dealings of his movement and its leaders. By mail, he heard Atreya Rishi's plan for introducing Krishna consciousness in Karachi, Pakistan, and he said the plans were intelligent. He saw and approved a new film by Yaduvara. He met with Hamsaduta Swami and requested him to develop the preaching in Sri Lanka. He heartily approved Prabha Vishnu's going to preach in Dhaka, Bangladesh. He heard of the need for strong preachers in Hyderabad, and when Srila Prabhupada's disciple Sridhara Swami came to see him, he asked him to go there. He saw Lokanath Swami and encouraged him in his program of traveling by bullock cart and preaching in the Indian villages. Lokanatha had brought Srila Prabhupada a Marathi translation of the Perfection of Yoga, and Srila Prabhupada sat for some time listening to Lokanath Maharaja read aloud, although Prabhupada said he didn't know the Marathi language. When an ISKCON Bombay Pujari wanted to know if some Shalagrama Shilas were bona fide, Srila Prabhupada agreed to see them, confirmed that they were genuine, and advised how they should be worshipped. Certain managerial affairs Prabhupada would try to avoid, although often to no avail, such as concerning the delays in completing the construction work at Bombay. He could hear the sounds of work, and sometimes it was noisy, but it was the slowness that perturbed him. Sometimes he would sit silently for hours and then remark to his servant or secretary that he was very upset by the construction delays. You are sincere workers, Prabhupada told the devotees in charge, but no intelligence. I can see that this construction work is not going on. Am I to close my eyes? I can do that, but I am a sensible man. How can I close my eyes? They are all giving their excuses. Srila Prabhupada analyzed the different leaders and, on finding defects in each of them, concluded that they were incompetent to speed up the construction. When Tamala Krishna suggested that maybe they should consult a life member who was expert in construction, Prabhupada approved. So Mr. Mohata, an engineer and life member, was brought to see Srila Prabhupada. At that time, the construction company was demanding that all past bills be paid before they would go on with the work. But Srila Prabhupada said he wouldn't pay any more bills until the work was completed. Then all bills would be paid in full. Although some of the devotees were more inclined to pay the company right away, at least partially, so that the work would go on smoothly, Mr. Mohata at once appreciated Prabhupada's reasoning and began dealing with the construction company on that basis. He got results, and Prabhupada was relieved. Thus, although Prabhupada was eager to retire fully, he did not feel he could remove himself from ISKCON management yet. Srila Prabhupada had no regular doctor. From time to time, a Kaviraja Ayurvedic doctor might show up to give a diagnosis and some medicine, but Prabhupada wouldn't take it very seriously. He didn't consider these Kavirajas very qualified, and if the medicine tasted bitter or produced any bad effect, he would stop taking it. Everything was up to Krishna, and the doctor couldn't change that. Prabhupada mentioned the relative merits of Ayurvedic and homeopathic medicines, but like any other mundane topic, medicine was something he showed little interest in. He began having the newspapers read to him. Much of the news dealt with the downfall of the Congress party and the reform promises of the Janata party. From time to time, Prabhupada would comment, these rascals, wherever they go, they create trouble. One time he commented, Manda Sumanda Matayaha. They have got a conception which is very, very bad. Their religious, social, and political conceptions are all condemned. Prabhupada's conclusion, what the fools and rascals are doing, that is the newspapers. Prabhupada directed Tamala Krishna and others to write letters and articles replying to some of the news stories. In one news editorial, the writer criticized formal education as corrupting the minds of children. Educationists and researchers, the writer urged, should look into the question and suggest remedies. Srila Prabhupada, that means the rascals do not know that godlessness and godless education will be like that. The teachers who are suggesting they are themselves bad and they are leading. They do not know what is the defect. You can write to them, you leaders who do not know what is the cause. This is the cause. Harav abhaktasya kuto mahad guna manorathe nasati dhavato bahihi. Without God consciousness, there cannot be any education. There cannot be any good qualities. You do not know this, and you are simply crying in the wilderness. All the education and its propaganda is to make the world godless. Although the most scientific knowledge of God is there in the Bhagavad Gita, write him, give him a slap. You do not know. Another article, 100 million Harijans pick a new messiah. Observed the death anniversary of Dr. Amritsar, the former champion of human rights for the untouchable caste. The writer lamented that the untouchables, termed Harijanas by Mahatma Gandhi, were so downtrodden and presented such a baffling problem to the leaders and people of India. Srila Prabhupada asked Tamala Krishna to write to the editor explaining how Krishna consciousness uplifts the most fallen. We shall elevate them to go back to Godhead, whatever they may be, said Prabhupada. The defect was that Gandhi started this Harijan movement, keeping them where they are, and at the same time changing their name by rubber stamp to Harijan. That must be failure. Just by artificially giving him money or stamping approval, it won't change anything. You have to change him, and they have no plan for that. We should not misuse this word Harijan, which means the personal associate of God. Prabhupada said that some of the senior devotees should regularly write on topics which he would suggest. More and more, they should take up the management, write essays, and give lectures transmitting the arguments he would give them. Now, you try to manage the whole world organization. All GBC men, said Prabhupada. Suppose I am not there, manage very nicely, but not independently to create havoc, but really managed and still present. So I will give you direction. Don't spoil it. We are in a very good, prestigious position. So much hard labor. I started with a very humble condition, and now it has come such an exalted position. You don't spoil it. That is my request. Increase. That will depend on your character, behavior, and preaching. Everyone was astonished how I started this without any help. My only asset was I was sincere. Everyone knows it. Otherwise, how is it possible? The days went by peacefully with mind.
Mati, I think you can stop there.
Yes, Prabhu.
Uh, again, again, today's reading was very interesting because again, we can see how Prabhupada is telling his disciples also, I will give you ideas, I'll teach you how to write. So Prabhupada really wanted this, that as his followers, we give the whole truth to people, on any topics. Prabhupada is just not convinced of partial solutions, stage-wise solutions, nothing. Just the full solution of Krishna consciousness. Just the full solution. So this is what I think an essential requirement if we are to claim to be Prabhupada's followers. At least this much we should do. And we can see here, he's saying in the this thing that when the disciples write articles, how they should write, he just doesn't like any concept which is on the bodily platform or the mental platform or intellectual platform. It should be on the spiritual platform. It's very clear. And spiritual platform means clear. What is spiritual platform? Krishna is the supreme person of Godhead. We are all his part and parcels. We all need to serve him. That's it. So he's very clear about that everything should be expressed from the point of view of from the spiritual platform, and people should be made clear about what the spiritual platform is and encourage them to act on the spiritual platform. Any thoughts, questions, reflections? And I mean, another interesting thing, you see how Prabhupada is saying, these people simply come and ask, how are you doing? Prabhupada considers even that a waste of time. Of course, Prabhupada was very generous when he had to meet people, and that's correct. But what is the use if they are not going to listen to his message? Simply coming and asking, how are you? And simply trying to come and get some blessings from him. It makes no sense to him. He's interested in their actual welfare. You ask, how are you? You also listen to what I'm saying. Do it in your life.
Vishnu Babuji.
Yes.
Very interesting indeed. I just wanted to say how I was deeply moved by Prabhupada's humility in this section, where he says to his disciples that I cannot repay you for all that you've done. And I found that just those few lines sort of heart-wrenchingly moving. Yeah. So here is Jagat Guru lowering himself to be, incapable of repaying a debt to his own disciples. I mean, it was just, it's incredible humility. Oh, sure.
Actually, good that you brought up that point, because I was just, just, since you brought up this point, it just relates to what I've been thinking about. That if we want Prabhupada, we don't, of course, we don't think we're doing Prabhupada a great favor, but by helping him, it's our good fortune. But yet we should know that if we do the way Prabhupada wanted us to do, then even he feels obliged. And like how Ajita becomes Jita, Krishna becomes conquered. So even Prabhupada feels obliged if we do it the way Prabhupada wanted it to be done. That's why he's feeling obliged here also, because they're listening to him and they're helping him to fulfill the instructions of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. That's why he feels very obliged. You don't see Prabhupada talking like that to Dr. Mishra or somebody else or nothing. He talks about this to his disciples because his disciples had fully taken up to his mission of spreading his spiritual master's teachings. So it's natural that he being a pure devotee, it was natural for him to appreciate, because he saw everybody as representatives of his Guru Maharaj. That's a natural humility of a pure devotee. Okay, so if there are no further questions, or reflections or thoughts, comments, we've reached 5:30 today.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji.
Prabhu, whenever Prabhupada was being asked by others, how are you? Yes, of course, he felt very bad. But he also said one more statement, that after all, it is a mission, whether it is good or bad, it has to be used in the service of the Lord. But of course, he is very transcendental. Being a practicing devotee, how much we should concentrate on our health? Because I had been getting this advice recently, frequently from everybody, that I should take care of my health. So sometimes it is confusing me. Sometimes I'm bewildered whenever I get some sickness.
If you think that you are your body, I'm saying this, please hear this carefully. If you think that you are your body, you will not take care of your health. If you think you are not the body, then you'll take care of your health. Because then you know the body is different from you. So it's a machine, right? Yet you're dependent on this machine to progress in Krishna consciousness. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, if you're sick, then you cannot even relish Krishna consciousness. But Prabhupada is beyond that platform. Prabhupada is beyond that platform. He is not dependent on the body for his spiritual experience. We're also not dependent in the sense that spiritual experience happens independent of it. But we don't have the ability to seek spiritual experience when the body is in a miserable condition. We don't have that ability. So therefore, Prabhupada would always end the letter by saying, hope this meets you in good health. So if my temple president was the one who told me that, you think you're the body. That's why you think, okay, based on your enthusiasm, we can keep doing. But the body is something separate. Unless you take care of the body, your enthusiasm also will get affected. Because when the body gets affected, then we get affected because we identify with the body. As long as the body is not affected, we are going on, right? Because we are identifying with the body, we think we are the body. But the moment, what do you call it, something strikes the body, then because we are the consciousness of we are the body, we get affected. So therefore, we should always act on the platform. We are not the body. This is a separate entity that I have to take care of.
Could you please repeat the statements which you made in the beginning, Prabhu, in my answer?
I said you will not take care of your body if you think you're the body.
Okay.
Because you think whatever you are feeling, yeah, that's it. But the moment you realize the body is a separate entity, then you take care of it. Because it functions according to its own ways. So you'll start taking care of it the moment you start realizing that you're not the body. I'm separate, the body is separate. But we are dependent on our bodies. Therefore, in the Shastra is also glorified. This body is a vehicle which can get us back to God. All that is glorified also. If we utilize it properly. We are right now dependent on our bodies. Prabhupada was not. Prabhupada was not. I mean, we are not. We are dependent to the extent that we identify with the body. We are dependent, right? So that experience of misery can obstruct our progress in spiritual life. So we should be careful that we are not the bodies. So because we are not the bodies, it is very simple, Mataji. It's very, very simple. Like suppose you're walking on the road, somebody comes and robs you, or somebody does something to you, right? Don't you get disturbed? Naturally, all of us would get disturbed easily, right? Why? Some external entity has caused some disturbance to you. It's causing some problem, right? Similarly, the body, when it strikes, then it's an external entity. So then we wonder, I mean, we won't feel, anyway, the point is that, so body is an external entity. So it has the ability to strike you. So you should be so transcendently situated that even if the body strikes you, you will still go on with life as if nothing has happened. That only those who are in the Brahma Bhuta stage can do it. Otherwise, we are all affected to the extent we are in the material platform. It's an external entity. So we need to take care, ensure that the body doesn't strike you. Keep the body in a good condition.
But it is not in our control now, Prabhu.
Body is not in your control. But that's why Shastra says keeping the body in control is keeping the body fine is in your control. Why do you say it's not?
Falling sick is not in my control now, Prabhu.
Falling sick is, yes, Prabhupada said we get disease when we neglect. Disease, that's why it says no, disease, death, all these things cannot be neglected. It is caused by us. Sickness is caused by us. Either in the past life or this life, whatever, we are causing the sicknesses. Body itself is a symptom of sickness, first of all. We are the cause of our sickness. I mean, what else do you think is the cause?
That's what, as you said, my past karma, if it is the reason behind my sickness, I cannot stop it, right? I cannot stop it.
How do you know whether it's your past karma or your present what is causing the disease?
I don't know.
That is why the instruction is there that one has to, what do you call it? See, that way you can take everything. No, you don't have to study at all, right? You can just be at home. I mean, why you send the students to school? Past karma is there, it'll happen. Why do they have to go to school? They don't have to go to school. They can just be at home. So there are some principles, dharma tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. So Shastra gives us some principles. Get up in the morning, eat food on time, eat healthy food. All these things are prescriptions are there. Take care of, do do things in a regulated manner. All these prescriptions are there. Once you follow all those prescriptions, then if you fall sick, then you can say, okay, it could be but due to my past thing because I followed everything properly. But if you don't follow, it could be this lifetime, it could be past lifetime, it could be a combination of everything. Obviously, if you don't follow this lifetime, you're going to fall sick. You keep on eating sweet foods and fatty foods and all that, then you'll get diabetic. All these things are going to happen, right? So the point is that just like everything else in life, to maintain the body is also one of the duties. Krishna says, Krishna is giving, so in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, right? Don't be excessive in your habits of eating, sleeping, recreation. All this should be moderate. Krishna is giving a prescription. No? If we don't follow all those prescriptions, we are falling sick. We're going to fall sick. And that's caused by us, no? Because we're defying what Krishna is saying. So take care of the health is one of the prescriptions that is given by Krishna and the Acharyas. We cannot imitate, like Prabhupada used to repeatedly say, we cannot imitate the Goswamis. They could manage with few hours of sleep and just a little bit of buttermilk. He said, we can't imitate. They are already on that plan. They are not Nidraha. It says Nidrahara, Vihara, Kadi, Vijito. They are conquered over eating and sleeping. Parikshit Maharaj, Chukdev Goswami. And whereas for Upadeshamritas, for basic neophytes, what does he tolerate? It says, tolerate the urges. It's not speaking about conquer and all that. It's talking about tolerating. Conquering is something else. You know? So, for those of us who are neophytes, we have to tolerate the urge to just do whatever we want to do. And we should fall in line with regulations. Okay, regulated eating, regulated sleeping, all these things, we should fall in line with regulations. And once we cross that stage, then it doesn't matter. Like how, I mean, the Goswami is there, they would hardly sleep and all. They were absorbed, kallola magnam muhu. But one has to come from the stage of regulations to the to the level of spontaneity. One cannot imitate spontaneous devotional service. Only those on the spontaneous platform, for them, it doesn't matter. But for us, it matters. So therefore, we have to follow the regulations. And one of the regulations is to take care of our health. Hope this meets you in good health. Prabhupada and every letter like that. Why?
Health is important to do service, to sadhana, everything.
I think you can look at your own life. When you've fallen sick, have you been able to practice Krishna consciousness properly?
No.
Then,
I've sacrificed many things.
yeah, exactly. So you have direct experience of it, right? So then, I mean, it's an obvious thing.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so we'll stop here for today. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasinduvyavcha paritanam pavanebhyo vaishnavyo namo namaha. Shri Prabhupada ki